Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk is live and direct on a Tuesday. Boy, what did we miss? We're back from a 3-day weekend with 3 hours of sports talk for you tonight here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on our streaming video channels, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube, WIBW News on Facebook. However, wherever, whenever you're catching the program today, thanks so much for being a part of 580 Sports Talk. I am Dan Lucero. I'm mostly solo today. Brendan Dworzinski is off today. Spencer Dupuis is out and about. He'll check in with us for a little bit later on. We're always happy to have a day off in this business. We're always happy to have a company day off, a company-wide holiday. I don't even know if it's a federal holiday, President's Day. I just know we get it off here in the Connoisseur Media family. Happy to have a day off, typically. Yesterday, I was happy to have a day off because my wife did not have a day off, but my kid's daycare had a day off, so I had to be Mr. Mom for a day. Me and my little one had a blast. We went to the park. He loves to slide. We had a great day yesterday. But it would also have been fun to do a show. I've had all these takes stored up in me, begging to come bursting forth since Sunday night when Kansas State announced that they were firing head men's basketball coach Jerome Tang, and doing so for cause. And Jerome Tang announced that he was lawyering up. And I've got bad news for Kansas State if they think they're getting out of 1 red cent of that $18.675 million. No, you aren't. We will have full reaction today to the firing of Jerome Tang, the Tang era, the rise and fall, why it succeeded at first, why it failed spectacularly at the end, and yes, thoughts on Kansas State's decision, ill-advised decision, to try and make this a for-cause firing. We will also talk about where Kansas State goes from here. And I have more bad news for Kansas State fans with dreams of Josh Schertz or Jared Calhoun or Travis Steele or Brad Underwood dancing in their heads. Dream smaller. Dream smaller, because the next coach at Kansas State, I know it's a well-worn cliche in coaching circles, but the next coach at Kansas State is really being hired to be fired. And I think the coaching industry will be very well aware of that, because whoever is next, whoever follows Jerome Tang and takes over this program at ground zero is in for a very difficult road to hoe. And I don't see how that is in any way appealing to the hotshot mid-major coaches that are littering hot boards everywhere. I think if you're a K-State fan, you want to adjust your expectations downward for who the next head coach at Kansas State is going to be. We will get to all of that today. Plus, of course, your reaction. Want to hear from you on the text line. 785-272-9429 is the number to text. If you would like to get your thoughts heard on the program today, you can also interact in the live chat on our YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talk, the name of the channel. If you are watching us live on YouTube, first of all, hello. Second of all, hop in the live chat, say hello, make yourself known, interact with yourselves, interact with yours truly. You got Ryan, Andrew, Mark H., Paul, Vance, Christopher already in the chat today. So looking forward to hearing from all of you and more as we go along on the program today. In addition to all of the conversation about not just the end of the Jerome Tang era, but tonight the start of the post-Jerome Tang era as Kansas State plays Baylor tonight at Bramlage Coliseum. We'll have coverage right here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9 with pregame starting at 7 o'clock from the K-State Sports Network from Learfield. We will have lots to say. I will have lots to say today about the firing of Jerome Tang. But we've also got some other great guests lined up today. Bottom of this 3 o'clock hour, Matt Verderame, our NFL insider from Sports Illustrated. We're going to talk to Matt about the bubbling up of what you would call the NFL hot stove, I suppose. Ask him about a trade rumor floated by one of his colleagues over at ESPN, Bill Barnwell, a Trent McDuffie trade rumor that is floating, and also get his thoughts about everything else going on in the National Football League. Also at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour, Michael Swain of Fog.net will join us for Jayhawk Weekly. Look at Michael's take, because I think Michael will have a very interesting take on why exactly it is such a bad idea to try and fire a coach for cause when you ain't really got cause, or at least not the kind of cause that's going to hold up in court. He'll have an interesting perspective on that, I bet. Name David Beatty? Ring any bells? So we'll get Michael Swain's perspective from that side of it. Also talk to him about Kansas getting smoked at Hilton Coliseum on Saturday. I don't think it's that big a deal. We'll see if Michael thinks it is, and look ahead to the week to come for the Jayhawks. That's all coming up bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. We'll do What Is Wrong With You. We got headlines, good, bad, ugly. Lots of great stuff today on the show, plus your text, 785-272-9429, and your comments on the YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talk, the name of the channel. Here are the facts as we know them. Jerome Tang was informed on Sunday night he was no longer the head men's basketball coach at Kansas State. This followed an improved effort on Saturday in what ended up being a 14-point loss at Houston. Better showing at Houston than the last couple of seasons, but still a losing effort, a one-sided losing effort. The reporting of the Manhattan Mercury says that Tang was presented two options, and this is why the news of the firing kind of dragged through the day and into the night on Sunday. The reporting of the Manhattan Mercury is that there were two options for Jerome Tang. He could have coached out the rest of the season and then agreed to part ways with a reduced buyout, a reduced financial compensation, or Kansas State would fire him for cause. That begs a very important question. If you're going to fire a guy for cause, don't you just fire him for cause and not offer him a life raft? I don't know. If I had cause to fire somebody, like real gonna hold up in court cause, I'd just do it. But that's me. That's how I'm built. Anyhow, that's the reporting of the Manhattan Mercury. Tang reportedly chose the latter, chose not to coach the rest of the year and resign, and has been fired for cause. Jerome Tang has hired or retained, whatever the terminology you like is here, a pair of lawyers whose names you know if you follow litigation in college sports. Tom Mars, who just recently was Trinidad Chambliss's representation, the quarterback at Ole Miss who just won his lawsuit against the NCAA and was granted an extra year of eligibility. So Tom Mars is on Tang's side. Also Bennett Spire. You know, Bennett Spire represented back in November former LSU head football coach Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly was fired. LSU told him they were going to fire him for cause because Brian Kelly was owed a $54 million buyout. That's almost 3 times Jerome Tang's buyout. LSU didn't want to pay all that money. So LSU said they were going to fire Brian Kelly for cause. Brian Kelly retained Bennett Spire. Brian Kelly received a $54 million buyout. Jerome Tang has made it very clear. He wants every penny of that $18.675 million, and he's going to get it. I'm just telling you right now, he's going to get it. This is a bad decision by Gene Taylor, and it is not going to end with Kansas State paying even a penny less than $18.675 million. The bar you have to clear for a for-cause firing is beyond, well, he was kind of mean to our players, and then they talked about it on Pardon the Interruption. So actually that is regarded as objectionable behavior that subjects coach Kansas State Athletics to the University of public disrepute, embarrassment, ridicule, or scandal with such conduct reflecting unfavorably upon Kansas State Athletics or the university's reputation or overall primary purposes and mission. That's the language in the contract, by the way. It did not work at LSU. And not only did it not work, LSU folded like a tent. LSU said, yeah, we're not paying you that $54 million. And Brian Kelly said, are you sure about that? And like 2 days later, LSU said, actually, here's your check for $54 million. We would like this to go away. So the only real question is, how much athletic department and university money are they going to let Gene Taylor light on fire to try to keep Jerome Tang from getting the money that Gene Taylor agreed to pay him in the first place? Let's start there. This is money that was promised to Jerome Tang. You don't get out of paying it because he wasn't good at his job. That's why it's there. You got a text from the 402 says Jerome Tang stealing money from Kansas State. No, the hell he's not. Kansas State promised him that money. Pay the man his money. I know he wasn't good at his job. I know there was no tenable future for Kansas State to keep Jerome Tang as the basketball coach. And frankly, there was no tenable future for Jerome Tang at Kansas State. But this is not theft of money. That's insane. This is not theft of money on Jerome Tang's part. That is money he is owed. That is in his contract, and they will pay him that money. Bennett Spire and Tom Mars are not being retained to get a percentage. Well, I mean, they get a percentage, but they are not being retained so that Jerome Tang receives a percentage of the buyout, unless that percentage is 100. So let's just lay that out right now. The only question is, how much more beyond $18.675 million does the university and the athletic department want to pay in lawyer fees? Because you're wasting time. You're chasing your tail. Jerome Tang's getting that money. He is getting that money. You don't have to like it, but that was Gene Taylor's decision in the first place. That is his boondoggle. That is his mess to clean up. Smile and dial, Gene. I think Gene Taylor's a good athletic director. I think, by and large, his tenure as the athletic director has been a smash success at Kansas State. But he stepped in it here. We all make mistakes. Some of our mistakes don't cost us or our employer $18.675 million to clean up, but this one does. That is what it is going to cost Kansas State to move off of Jerome Tang. Not a penny less. As Jim Calhoun once said, not a dime back. So let's make that real clear, right off the rip, that this idea of, well, there will be a settlement. I don't think so. I don't think so. Color me surprised. If they get to a point where there's a settlement, I will be extremely surprised. I'm telling you right now, Jerome Tang didn't hire those guys to take a penny less than $18.675 million. So that's that side of it. The other side of it is the end of the era. Error, as some might be inclined to say today. The end of the Jerome Tang era at Kansas State. Not even 4 full seasons. Can you believe that? I believed in Jerome Tang. Didn't you? How could you not have? The first season of Jerome Tang at Kansas State, 2022-23, that was a joyride from start to finish. And Jerome Tang was at the center of it as a force of nature, not just changing the face of Kansas State basketball, but changing the culture of the university. You've been to a K-State athletic event the last 3 years that isn't against the University of Kansas? How many times do you hear FKU chanted during non-KU games anymore? You don't, right? That was Jerome Tang. That was his influence. K-State fans didn't storm the court at Bramlage Coliseum the last 3 years. Not that they had much cause to this year, obviously, but Jerome Tang was 3-1 against Kansas at Bramlage Coliseum. Those were the kinds of games you would storm the court after if you were a K-State student, K-State fan. Only happened once, that first time. That memorable first meeting at Bramlage between KU and K-State under Tang, when K-State won in overtime and Jerome Tang took the microphone and stood on the table. And you've all seen the clip. And if you're a KU fan, you've probably shared it derisively in the last 48 hours in a group chat or on social media. And Jerome Tang said, I got you one court storm. From here on out, expect to win. I was there that night. I was at Bramlage Coliseum that night. I have that speech. That court storm, I have it all on video on my phone. It is and will remain, I think, as long as I'm fortunate enough to do this, one of the single most electrifying nights I've ever experienced. It was an incredible scene at Bramlage that night. Incredible. And it's one of the hallmarks of what was a truly incredible season. And Tang was at the middle of it all, personable, charming. He had students eating out of his hand. He had the media eating out of his hand a little bit. Hand up on that. And not only was it appealing, not only was his personality appealing, it was also appealing that he seemed to be a man of morals and character and principle and faith that lived by it and walked the walk every single day. And I think that's rare in college sports. But also, Jerome Tang had a swagger to him. Frankly, Jerome Tang is arrogant. Put a pin in that. Put a pin in that word. But it's true. And his personality was not only exactly what Kansas State basketball needed after the apathy that had set in at the end of the Bruce Weber years, it was a perfect match for the guys on that team in year one. A bunch of guys with chips on their shoulder. Marquise Noel, undersized, under-recruited. Keontae Johnson, literally almost died on the basketball court. Guys like Desi Sills, guys like David Gasson, who got chances at Division I power conference schools and didn't quite work out. Cam Carter, another one. It was a perfect fit between coach and university and team, and the result was magic. And I will remember that 2022-23 season as much as I'll remember any other team, college or pro, that I've ever had the privilege of covering in this job. And it would have been impossible to believe when the dust settled on that season that the well would become so poisoned over the next 2.5 seasons that Jerome Tang wouldn't see the end of year 4 in Manhattan, that the emperor would be shown to be naked so swiftly. But that's what happened. In the absence of all-America talent, we forget. We don't forget, but some people forget. Marquise Noel and Keontae Johnson weren't just good. They were both All-America that year. And in the absence of All-American talent, Jerome Tang's in-game coaching was a glaring weakness. His teams had no consistent identity, and in the year-over-year roster churn could not build the culture that would allow them to develop one. And instead of bringing more All-Americans in with the deep pockets of donors who were so entranced by Jerome Tang that they trusted him to continue to add dudes, Tang brought in players who did not work out for a variety of reasons. Tyler Perry was miscast as a point guard on the 2023-24 roster. Arthur Kaluma's effort came and went. Doug McDaniel was a malcontent who butted heads with the coach. Coleman Hawkins was a supporting actor given lead actor money, one of the highest paid players in college basketball, and he was a role player. PJ Haggerty doesn't elevate his teammates. Nate Johnson isn't a Big 12 caliber starting guard. Those were the big expenditures, to say nothing of guys like Andre Kostic, who came into Kansas State this year with NBA draft lottery buzz and then couldn't get off the bench. Could he really not play? Could Jerome Tang not figure out how to use him? I guess that doesn't matter anymore, right? Because he's hurt. But that was a 7-figure player who didn't perform like one. Over and over again, it happened over the course of 3 years. And in the midst of all of this, and in the midst of this season, which is going to go down as one of the worst in Kansas State men's basketball history, Jerome Tang tried to have it both ways. To shield his players from criticism, because like I said, in the wake of the rant after the Cincinnati game, that press conference, I do believe that he has tried to love his players and speak life to his players and protect his players. I believe that. I think that's part of his coaching philosophy. But you can't have it both ways. You cannot shield your players from criticism and then not take any accountability for yourself. And it ended with Tang blowing a fuse and throwing his players under the bus after the Cincinnati loss, which was absolutely the point of no return. Jerome Tang's tenure ended that night. Even though he got to coach one more game, his tenure ended that night, the moment he opened his mouth. I believed in Jerome Tang. And I still believe that he's a good man, a man of strong character and faith. And I believe he loved being the men's basketball coach at Kansas State. Everything he said about loving Kansas State, loving Manhattan, I believe that was true. But I also believe there was something he maybe loved a little bit more. And that something was Jerome Tang. I think he got high on his own supply after the miracle of 2022-23. And I think he believed he was capable of spinning straw into gold every year, that relationships were less important than what somebody was asking for in NIL money, and that he could keep making that magic happen with different players year after year after year. So now, instead of that memorable season having been the starting point of something grand, it's just a bit of a blip on K-State's historical basketball radar, and the end of Jerome Tang's tenure is best explained in a way that I'm sure Jerome Tang is very familiar with. We turn to the scripture in Proverbs 16:18. Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Your reaction, 785-272-9429 on the text line. 580 Sports Talk in the YouTube live chat. We got a lot more to come. Matt Verderame and Michael Swain joining us today. More reaction to Jerome Tang's firing and where K-State goes from here. We're jam-packed over 3 hours today, and glad you're here on 580 Sports Talk. .331 on 580 Sports Talk. Just getting started on this Tuesday following what was for us a 3-day weekend. Whether you got the Monday off or not, hope you enjoyed the last 3 days, and glad to have you back along here on this Tuesday show. Common theme to a lot of the reaction to Jerome Tang's firing on the text line and in the live chat is frustration with Kansas State Athletic Director Gene Taylor. Andrew in the live chat says Gene Taylor needs to go. This is a bad look for the university. I doubt the boosters are going to give any more money. I'm sure they wanted Tang gone as well without paying. The text line from the 785, Gene Taylor's brought more embarrassment to Kansas State with the handling of this firing than Tang did with his comments. He certainly, the decision to fire Jerome Tang for cause has lit a fuse under some prominent commentators, college basketball commentators. Seth Greenberg was in particular not pleased on ESPN's Big Monday coverage last night. Spoke, I thought, very eloquently about it from a pro-Jerome Tang perspective. You got to also remember that Seth Greenberg's a coach, right? He'd been on TV long enough that we forget that's where he came from. But Seth Greenberg is a coach. And so coaches are going to back coaches. So that's where that comes from. That particular perspective a little bit. I don't think, as I'm sitting here today, I would be extremely surprised if this leads to Gene Taylor's removal as the athletic director at Kansas State. I'd be extremely surprised. Because, again, you got to look at the big picture. It's not just the revenue sports. You look at the big picture, what's happened at K-State sports since Gene Taylor's been the AD, smash success. Great hires up and down, Tang accepted. Lots of additions to the facilities, new facilities getting built. That's a big part of the AD's job, rally the donors, get them to write the checks. A lot of good things have happened for Kansas State athletics under Gene Taylor. I think he is a good athletic director. I think he made a huge mistake with the contract. I think he is making another huge mistake in trying to weasel out of it by claiming this is a firing for cause. And what you're doing is you're saying two things. When you decide, okay, we're just going to fire for cause. Number one, we don't have the money lying around. That is, I am sure, where Jerome Tang's reaction to go get the best lawyers he could comes from, because Jerome Tang detected a whiff of broke in the air when he heard they were going to fire him for cause. Oh, if you're not just going to make me go away, that means you haven't come up with the $18.675 million to make me go away. So I'm going to make you do it. Take your time. Whatever more it costs you is not my business. But that's the first thing. You're admitting you don't have the money on hand. And the second thing, when you do that, is you open yourself up for discovery. If there is a lawsuit, the things that go public. Remember, Jeff Long did not come out of the David Beatty lawsuit looking all that good, smelling like roses. And Jeff Long had some other problems. Like Jeff Long was at Kansas distinctly inferior athletic director to what Gene Taylor has done at Kansas State. But I don't think this is the end of Gene Taylor. However, the people who really call the shots are the people with the big wallets and the big checkbooks. And if they're not happy, then I'm sure this is an uncomfortable time, probably a more uncomfortable time than we could even realize for Gene Taylor. But I do not think in the end, this is going to end with him getting run out of Manhattan. It's a mistake. It's a big one. Does one $18.675 million mistake outweigh all the other good he's done for the program or the department, I should say? I don't know. I don't feel that way. You might feel different, but I don't feel that way. Ryan asked what I would have done if I had been the AD. I would have made sure I had my money together. And if I didn't have the money together, I would have waited till the end of the season and gotten the money together. And if I didn't have the money together, then I would keep trying to get the money together. Smile and dial is the only thing you can do. It was a point of no return, 100%. It could not continue. But that just means you need the money. I don't know. Hold a bake sale. Wash cars outside Bramlage Coliseum. Do what you got to do. Do what you got to do. Hold an alumni flag football game at Bill Snyder Family Stadium and charge admission. Do what you got to do. Get your bread up. You said you owed that man that money if you wanted to let him go. Well, you got to let him go, so you got to pay him. That's your problem. I'm glad it's not my problem. I'm glad it's not my issue to solve. But that would be how I would solve it, because I would not want to get to a point where there's litigation involved and it could potentially become this knockdown, drag out where I end up like Kansas did, owing or spending more money on the David Beatty buyout and lawsuit, because they did actually shrink the buyout by like $450,000. But when you add in the legal fees, it cost KU more money to go through the litigation and save a piddly amount on a tiny buyout. It was like $3 million. I don't know that it's going to be worth it. I would avoid it. I would have avoided it if I were Gene Taylor. But again, I'm glad it's not my decision to make, because it was very clear after the Cincinnati game, like, Jerome Tang can't be the coach in 2026-27. That much is obvious. But the way to go about doing it is to smile and dial and, I don't know, get your cookie recipe right. Sell some cookies outside Bramlage Coliseum. Get that $18.675 million by hook or by crook, because you're going to have to get to it anyway. As soon as Gene Taylor saw who Jerome Tang hired as his lawyers, I guarantee you he thought, well, I better make some phone calls. I better get to begging. If I've got to beg, I'm going to beg. I'm not too proud to beg. That's a big number. But if they had it laying around, Jerome Tang would be gone. No strings attached. It's a pretty big string, $18.675 million. We'll have more on this in the 4 o'clock hour. I'm going to talk about where K-State goes from here, because I don't think they go where K-State fans are hoping they go. They're definitely not hiring Brad Underwood. Stop saying that. Stop thinking that's a possibility. If that's you, stop. for your own good, for your own mental health. But there's a lot going on in the NFL. Tyreek Hill is a free agent, and there's some trade rumblings surrounding the Chiefs. We're going to talk about that with Matt Verderame next. Our NFL insider joins us on 580 Sports Talk. We are joined on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline by our NFL insider, Matt Verderame of Sports Illustrated, SI.com. Also his subscriber-only Patreon, The Matt Verderame Show, and That Football Show on the KC Sports Network. Matt typically joins us Mondays here on 580 Sports Talk. Gracious enough to join us on this Tuesday after we took yesterday off. Matt, let me start with this. The Miami Dolphins released veteran wide receiver Tyreek Hill yesterday. My thoughts on a Chiefs reunion are not very nuanced. They are in order, no and hell no. But do you have a more nuanced thought, either pro or con, for the notion of Tyreek Hill returning to Kansas City upon his recovery from that knee injury he suffered last year on what we would assume would be a reduced contract?
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, thank you for not setting the bar too high for nuance. I'm not a big nuance guy myself. Listen, I do think there's more shades of gray to it in this standpoint. Listen, first of all, let's just get the elephant in the room out of the way. Okay, look, if we're talking about the kind of character he's displayed over the years off the field, then that's an unequivocal no. Like, if the Chiefs ever showed that they cared about any of that kind of stuff, I'd say no. The Chiefs have a long history over this dynastic run of making it very clear that character flaws, concerns, legal issues, they don't care. It's not going to stop them. So if I'm just analyzing this as a reporter, my thought is that the off-the-field stuff with the Chiefs won't even factor in because they just don't care. They've never shown one iota that they care. So then you get to, okay, as a football player, is he worth what I agree with you would be a reduced one-year contract? And I think the truth of it is, from their perspective, it's going to be, okay, well, when is he going to play again? Like, he may not even play this upcoming season. He might play half of it. He might play if everything went magically right, 2/3 of it. That seems like it might be a stretch. So if you're the Chiefs, is it worth bringing in a 32-year-old coming off of a horrific leg injury? The answer in most cases, probably you wouldn't even blink twice to say no. With him, because of his history in Kansas City, his rapport with Patrick Mahomes, his understanding of that offense, could I see them giving him a one-year incentive-laden deal, thinking, hey, he might play 8 games plus the playoffs? Yeah, but even if they do that, that can't be a big part of their answer to this offseason. That's got to be like a lottery ticket, and if it hits, awesome, and if it doesn't, not a big deal. If they make that a big part of their offseason strategy, that raises a lot bigger flags.
Does that seem like the most likely outcome for Hill on the market, is that it's a one-year deal with a contender, with the understanding that if he's available at all, it's probably just for the second half of the season in the playoffs?
Yeah, look, I think so. If you look at it realistically, I just don't know. If your team is not a contender, what is the reason to sign? Who cares? Like, sometimes you get teams that will sign a player like that. You know, this is an older veteran who's got a big history, because they'll say, hey, look, if he's really good in the first 6-7 weeks, we could trade him and get a pick. Okay, fine. Well, that's not going to apply here, right? Like, barring a medical miracle, that is not going to apply here. So if you're a team, I'll give you another team, the Bills, who have all the need in the world for a receiver. I could see the Bills just saying, you know what? The heck with it. We're going to sign the guy, and if he plays November, December, and then on, or even, Thanksgiving on, it's worth it to us. It's worth the shot. But I think if you're not a team with designs on winning a Super Bowl, I just don't see it. But I do think, to the larger point here that I think we're all driving at, if you're the Chiefs, 3 weeks to go or so until free agency, you should be looking at guys like Romeo Dobbs, a Rashid Shaheed, a Wan'Dale Robinson should he hit the market. A guy who all of a sudden it seems might hit the market as a cap casualty, and Michael Pittman. Like, if I'm the Chiefs and Michael Pittman Jr. hits free agency, I am all in trying to bring that guy in. He's 28 years old. He's really good. Like, those guys should all be much more important options than a guy who, at most, you're getting maybe the back half of this year, and then, if you brought him back like one more year, it's not like he's a long-term fix.
Matt Verderame is our guest, our NFL insider from Sports Illustrated, SI.com, joins us weekly here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline on 580 Sports Talk. What about the other player the Dolphins cut yesterday, Bradley Chubb? Where does he slot in for you in that hierarchy of free agents to be at edge? Trey Hendrickson's obviously the big ticket name there. There are some veterans late in their career, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack. Where does Bradley Chubb slot in for you as a priority guy at that position, which, frankly, there are not a lot of priority guys out there at edge?
No, there's not, which I think will help him, obviously, with his market. Now, I will say this. If you look at the draft, edge is one of the better positions in the draft. There are a lot of guys, and not just the Baileys and the Baines, the guys in the top 100, top 50, where I think, if you look at the top 50 prospects in this draft, 9 of them might be edge rushers. So that part of it hurts him. Listen, the story with Chubb has been the same story, unfortunately, for years. He's a talented player. He's hurt all the time. And that has kind of been, like, I think he's probably a one-year deal guy at this point. Maybe some team gives him 2, and it's basically a team option on the back half of the contract. It's just, at this juncture, it's not like he's coming off a great year. He's coming off a year where you're not exactly over the moon about going and getting him. He's not a bad player. He's a good player. At times, he can be a really good player. The problem, again, is just his availability is nil. He's never on the field for more than, a stretch of games here, a stretch of games there. And so I think any team, he, Mack, Bosa, all those guys you mentioned, I think they're all either because of age or durability concerns, or in the case of Bosa, both. One-year guys. Von Miller's another one-year guy if he doesn't retire. And then it's just, okay, what do you do? Hendrickson is the only edge rusher who I think is going to get paid major money this offseason. And maybe there's one other guy who surprises you. But I think, you're going to kind of look to that mid-tier guy, I think. Boye Mafe, Kiwity Pay, guys like that who, if you need pass rush, you go, okay, let's supplement the pass rush with 1 or 2 guys like that and then go draft somebody.
The Chiefs are certainly in a position where they have to add to the defensive line. They're only looking at having about 7 defensive linemen under contract going into 2026. It could be fewer if they cut Mike Dana. Your colleague, Nate Taylor, over at ESPN.com, covers the Chiefs, wrote about this and wrote about it very well, I thought, last week. So we've been talking a little bit about this. How do you think the Chiefs address defensive line primarily? Do you think that's something they address through the draft, or is this a spot where, because the top of the market's so thin, there might be a chance to get some bargains in the mid-tier to lower tier of veterans in free agency to kind of supplement a defensive end group in particular that is going to be led by George Karlaftis next year?
Yeah, and and to that point, I think it's like I said, that's where, and I'm just using the names as an example, like a Mafe, a Pay, those types of guys who you're not paying a ton of money, but hey, those guys could get me 7 sacks as, when I say rotational, maybe a guy who plays 50% of the snaps, something like that. A guy who I can bring in and give me something. Jalen Phillips is a guy I think is going to get paid a lot more than a rotational player, even though his injury history is terrifying. But a guy like John Franklin Myers from Denver, who's a little bit older, moves around the line. He's got some versatility up front. That's the kind of guy who I think is a really interesting player. But I think for the Chiefs, you need to look at this D-line with eyes wide open and be really honest. Chris Jones is older. Chris Jones was still really, really good last year. Karlaftis last season, I thought was a little bit better in his numbers, but was not the guy that they want him to be. He had 6 sacks. They want him to be around 10. Norman Lott, I think, can really actually play some, but he got hurt. He's coming off the knee. And so Lott didn't show you a whole hell of a lot in almost 50% of snaps. Those are the only guys coming back. Like, I can't imagine that they're bringing back Pinnell or Menahu or Nadi or Tillery or Dana. I mean, if any of those guys are back, it's a problem. So you're talking about bringing back 5 new guys. Now, a couple of those guys probably going to be, minimum players, maybe a late round pick. You've got to add 3 meaningful bodies up there. And if that looks like, hey, okay, a Boye Mafe, maybe one other lower priority free agent, and then maybe it's a high draft pick, maybe it's Reuben Bain, maybe it's David Bailey, maybe it's somebody like that, maybe it's a second round pick at 40. But they've got to add at a minimum 2 meaningful players, probably try to get to 3.
A few more questions for Matt Verderame, our NFL insider, joins us weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt covers league for Sports Illustrated and SI.com. Bill Barnwell of ESPN was floating some trade ideas in a column earlier this week. And one of them, we talked a little bit about the idea that the Chiefs, rather than extending Trent McDuffie, could look to trade the former first-round pick this offseason as he enters his option year before they extend him. The proposal that Barnwell floated was McDuffie and a 5th for the second of the Rams' 2 first-round picks. Take the other team, the receiving team, out of the equation. If you're Brett Veach, McDuffie and a 5th for a late first, is that enough return for a guy you think as highly of as McDuffie?
It's close. I probably, if I'm Veach, I probably would say I'm not giving up my 5th. You're just giving me the first straight up. If it's a team in the early portion of the second round, just pick a team. I'm not even thinking about 5th, but like if it's the Commanders and they're picking whatever they are, and maybe it's like 36, 37 overall. If I'm Veach looking at that, I'd say, okay, I want your second, but I also want a 5th or a 6th. Like I want a day 3 pick with it to kind of bring back that value. If you get a first, I think you feel good about it. Listen, here's the thing with McDuffie. He's got a $13 million cap number right now. They cannot carry that. Now look, there are ways you can go under the cap and have some money. I'm not trying to make it out like you absolutely unequivocally have to do something with it. It would help them quite a bit. If they extend him, even if that deal's, let's just say $400, his cap number for the first year would probably be $7 or $8 million. So you would save money there. If you trade him, that entire cap number goes away. There's not a cent of dead money. They really would be behooved in the next 3 weeks to do something, whether it is trade him or extend him. Because I know a lot of people have made a lot of the stuff with Rashee Rice. What are they going to do with him? They can just play the year out. They can play the year out with Rashee Rice. If something goes wrong, move off of him, let him walk, get a comp pick. If he has a great year and he's not a problem off the field, they could tag him. There's a million things they can do. I think the McDuffie question, look, there are certain restructures and cuts they're just going to make. Like, we know they're going to do it. McDuffie is the real interesting guy to watch here before the free agency starts in the second week of March.
Brett Veach has not traditionally paid cornerbacks. They have not made it 2 second contracts with the team. Why would McDuffie be different?
Because he's better than all the rest of them. I mean, look, the reality is, I will say this. They wanted to pay and tried to pay Treverian. That I know for a fact. I remember reporting on that, talking to a source in that building until about 3 o'clock in the morning that day. They tried to pay him, but ultimately the Niners were willing to go to a place financially the Chiefs just weren't. But you're right. Typically speaking, they don't. And I think part of that is they just feel like they can develop corners. Merritt is a great secondary coach. And they feel like, look, we can just go and get guys and grab them and develop them. And that's what makes the other, the secondary is still fascinating with them this offseason because Watson is a priority free agent. And you'll look at him and go, okay, well, if they're going to pay McDuffie, to everyone's knowledge that I've ever spoken to around them, listen, he's a great teammate. He's a great guy in the room. He would prefer to play outside. He will play inside. But I think if you're the Chiefs, like if you're signing him to that kind of a contract, probably with the understanding that, okay, he's going to do some of both, but he also really likes to play outside, then Watson's not as big of a priority because then you have McDuffie, you have Noel Williams, and maybe Chris Bolton. If you don't keep McDuffie, you kind of have to sign Jalen Watson, don't you? I mean, otherwise it's Noel Williams and it's maybe Christian Fulton for one more year, and they don't even have another corner behind those two guys. So it's a very interesting game of chess and 3D checkers, whatever you want to say. But McDuffie, he is the linchpin. I think what they do with him will affect what they do with Jalen Watson. It might affect what they end up doing financially with Brian Cook. I mean, he is kind of the pin to this whole game of cards.
Matt Verderame covers the National Football League for Sports Illustrated. SI.com also has his own subscriber-only Patreon, The Matt Verderame Show, and appears with us here on 580 Sports Talk, usually Mondays. Today, joining us on a Tuesday here on the show. Matt, always a pleasure and great stuff as always. We'll do it again next Monday.
Thanks a lot. Sounds good.
That is Matt Verderame. We'll take a timeout, come back with the good, the bad, and the ugly from our 3-day weekend here on 580 Sports Talk. Well, the good, the bad, the ugly for the weekend. It was the bad. If you're watching on YouTube, the camera just took the Nestea plunge. So you're looking at a bunch of cords and wires. Hope nobody got vertigo watching that. That's only for our video viewers, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube and WWW News on Facebook. We'll get that fixed. In the meantime, the good, the bad, and the ugly. My good, I'm going to spend the day with my son yesterday. Daycare was closed. My wife was working. We were off. So I got to spend the whole day with Ash and hang out with him and play with his trucks. He's almost 2. And if you've ever raised a 2-year-old boy or been around a 2-year-old boy, you know that they are either truck people or they are dinosaur people. I think that's how it goes. Vehicle people, maybe. Let's expand that to include trains because my son does like to go choo-choo. But anyway, my son loves vehicles. So he's got all these little trucks, all these fire trucks and stuff that we play with. So we play with a bunch of those. Went to the park. He went down the slides. He goes down the big slides. He's a little maniac. He's a little daredevil. Like, I'm a little scared for my son sometimes. But, boy, he had the best time. He took a good nap. We hung out. We went out for lunch together. Just had an awesome time. It was really cool to just be dad, have a father-son day yesterday. I'm glad I was able to take advantage of that. My bad. The Jerome Tang saga, the firing, the decision by Kansas State to fire him for cause. Do not think it is a good idea. And I don't think this is a reason not to fire Jerome Tang. Don't get me wrong on this. But the next coach, well, I'm going to explain in the 4 o'clock hour the concept of a sin eater and why the next coach, men's basketball coach at Kansas State, is going to have to be a sin eater for the Jerome Tang era and the big buyout that Kansas State's going to have to pay. My ugly, let me tell you this. If you are a parent of a young child, you co-parent, you and your spouse, your partner, co-parent a young child, do whatever you can not to get sick at the same time, because the whole house got swept by a stomach bug over the weekend. That included your boy. I'm going to tell you this right now. Friday night, if there had been a high school game on the radio scheduled, it would not have made air. I couldn't have done it. Hit with the stomach bug, laid me low Friday night, sick as I've ever been, just miserable. So that was not a fun way to spend the start of the weekend. Certainly not a great way to spend Valentine's Day. More on K-State and the Jerome Tang firing and where K-State goes from here. Plus, Michael Swain and what is wrong with you coming up in the second hour, 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 2, 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday afternoon. Welcome in. Thanks for being here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color. We fixed the camera, I think. You can see me anyway. It took a dive there at the end of hour number 1. But we're back with the camera shot on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and our Facebook page, WIBW News. I am Dan Lucero. Brendan Wojcinski will be along for What Is Wrong With You. That's a nice treat. He'll be along in just a little bit, but it's mostly me the rest of the way, so it's me and you rocking out on this Tuesday. We're with you until 6 o'clock. K-State basketball at 7 o'clock tonight. That's pregame coverage on the K-State Sports Network from Learfield as Wildcats tip it off at Bramlage Coliseum against the Baylor Bears in the first game post Jerome Tang, who was fired on Sunday night. Obviously, Jerome Tang has that long-time relationship with Baylor, with their head coach, Scott Drew. Do you think Tang goes to the game? Do you think he goes wearing Baylor colors? He couldn't do that, could he? No, he couldn't do that. Oh, no, he couldn't do that. I bet he's there. I at least bet that he and Scott Drew had a nice lunch out today. Maybe they went to Taco Lucha. I don't know. Not my business. But I'm sure he got together with his old pal, Scott Drew, who I'm sure will be high on his list of references on his resume as he seeks further employment beyond this basketball season. You know who's not going to be on his list of references? Gene Taylor. Anyhow, K-State and Baylor, the first game of the Matt Driscoll era. I wasn't sure on Matt or Matthew, but the K-State Sports Network sends out their schedule every week, and they have it on their schedule for Thursday night at 7 o'clock, the first edition of the Matt Driscoll Show. So we'll go with Matt Driscoll, the interim head coach of the Kansas State Wildcats, formerly head coach at North Florida, first year on the Wildcat staff. He will guide Kansas State through the final 6 games of this regular season and into Kansas City for however long they last in the Big 12 tournament. So that is coming up tonight here on 580 WIBW. Of course, with K-State basketball, that means no 580 Preps Tuesday night hoops. Tonight, we're back with a 580 Preps game of the week this Friday. Hayden and Washburn Rural from Hayden, a classic city matchup. That's coming up this Friday, our next high school basketball coverage. Want to hear from you on the show if you've yet to weigh in or have some more thoughts on Jerome Tang's firing. Text the show, 785-272-9429. That is 785-272-9429. You can also interact with the show via our YouTube live chat. If you check out the show on YouTube, name of the channel is 580 Sports Talk. There's a live chat room just for us listeners and hosts, everybody part of the current 580 Sports Talk ecosystem. Pop in on the live chat, say hello. If you've never done it before, today's a great day to do it and get your thoughts in on the show today. Again, 580 Sports Talk, the name of the YouTube channel, and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have yet to do so. Go ahead and smash that subscribe button. Doesn't cost you anything but a click. It makes us feel good to see the number go up. We're 78 away from 1,000. Can you imagine us, 1,000 YouTube subscribers? Wouldn't that be something? It'd almost be as amazing as the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl, which happened. That happened 2 Sundays ago. Isn't that something? 1,000 subscribers. We're 78 away. So help us get there. And we'll do something fun when we get to 1,000. We still got to figure that out. We're still taking suggestions. But we'll figure it out. We'll do something fun when we get to 1,000. Be tough to top arm wrestling and karaoke, but we'll make it happen. Still to come this hour on 580 Sports Talk, we got our first round of What Is Wrong With You for the weekend. We've also got Jayhawk Weekly with our pal Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. He'll give us his perspective on buyout fights gone wrong. Kansas knows how that story goes. Also, his thoughts on KU's blowout loss at Hilton Coliseum on Saturday. We said Iowa State needed to right the ship. I guess it has been righted. They pounded the Jayhawks on Saturday. Last night, beat Houston in a classic Big Monday game. I don't know what y'all were doing last night. I hope you were watching Houston, Iowa State. That was a propane heater of a basketball game. Just awesome, awesome basketball. Nate Heisey hits the winning shot for Iowa State. They call it, I didn't know this is what the kids or the youths called it, the terminology for it, the no-dip three, where you catch the pass and it's not in the pocket, but you don't dip and gather and then put it up. You just put it up. Nate Heisey didn't have time to gather. No dip on that three. Nothing but net out of the corner to win the game for the Cyclones. Awesome, awesome game. And we'll talk about why. We'll see what Michael thinks. I don't think it's a big deal. Kansas got beat at Hilton. I don't think it's a big deal that the winning streak ended. Now, there are some individual performances that I think maybe are starting to look like big deals, but I don't think it's the end of the world to lose a Hilton Coliseum to a really good Iowa State team that was in a desperate spot. Maybe desperate's overselling it, but we'll get into that with Michael bottom of this hour here on the show. Plus, again, your texts, 785-272-9429, and your comments in the live chat on YouTube. But back to the big story from the weekend. Jerome Tang has been fired as head coach at Kansas State. The press release suggested a national search will begin immediately. Gene Taylor, in his 8-minute late-night Sunday press conference, alluded to the idea of coaching experience being important, head coaching experience being important in finding the next head coach at Kansas State. Obviously, that bit of an elbow towards Jerome Tang, who was a first-time head coach at the Division I level when he took the job at Kansas State 4 seasons ago. Whatever website you go to, whether it's gopowercat.com, we hope it's gopowercat.com. There are friends over there, and we urge you to subscribe to their work, 24/7 Sports. But wherever you go, there's a coaching hot board. I think Brendan Marks had one at The Athletic today. Lots of suggestions for who the next head coach at K-State could be, because if I'm not mistaken, Kansas State is the first Power 5 college basketball job to open up. So it is the first job now that you can look at and say, oh, here are some mid-major teams that are having really nice seasons. Well, maybe their coach wants to level up. How do you like Manhattan, Kansas, coach? And so, those columns, those hot boards, they write themselves. To the first question, though, that I think you have to ask when you go into the coaching search. People ask this question: is Kansas State a good job? And I say unequivocally, yes, Kansas State is a good men's basketball coaching job. I do think it is. Because you can go to the tournament at Kansas State. You can make a deep tournament run at Kansas State. You can win a conference championship at Kansas State. You can do that in the best basketball league in the country. Do you know how many of the current Big 12 schools have won a Big 12 title in the last 15 years? Here's the list: Kansas, Houston, Baylor, Kansas State, and Texas Tech. And Tech only ever did it once, won a share. That's the full list. There are 16 teams in the league. And I know not all of them have been in the league the last 15 years. And I know there's a stray league title or two for Texas in there. And I know Iowa State wins the tournament every year because they care about that more than they care about the regular season. Maybe they don't, but it feels like they do. But in the last 15 years, that is the list of Big 12 teams who have won a Big 12 championship. It's 5 teams deep. And Kansas State is on there, and Kansas State did it twice with 2 different head coaches. And Kansas State has been to the Elite 8 3 times in the last 15 years. Or rather, let me rephrase. Their last 3 head coaches all took a team to a regional final. That's pretty good. That shows you the level of success that is possible at Kansas State. The fan support is terrific. I believe that. I think Kansas State has a good basketball fan base. Right now, I do not think there is the same level of apathy to overcome like there was when Jerome Tang took the job after the Bruce Weber era ended. Bramlage Coliseum, anybody connected with college basketball will tell you, is hard to win at because it's rock concert loud in that building when the team is good. That is a real deal home court advantage. And when Kansas State is good, that is a home court advantage that I think is only surpassed in the Big 12 by Kansas and maybe Texas Tech and Iowa State. Maybe. Bramlage rocks when that team is good. And there is ample proof the last 4 years that NIL support can be there. There is a desire from the donor class at Kansas State, though it may not be as, what's the right word here? May not be as moneyed as the donor class at some other schools in the league. They will put their support behind basketball for the right coach and the right players. So is Kansas State a good job? Hell yeah, it's a good job. It is a good job. And I think under normal circumstances, it would be an attractive job for a hot mid-major coach to decide, I'm taking the next step in my career. I'm going to Kansas State. I'm going to go win at Kansas State. But these are not normal circumstances. In case you have forgotten, and I know you haven't, there's the small matter of the $18.675 million that Kansas State is going to owe Jerome Tang. Not a penny less, guys. I'll reiterate what I said at the top of the show. Jerome Tang did not hire Tom Mars and Bennett Spire as his representation to accept a dime less than $18.675 million. So Kansas State is going to pay that. And to whatever extent they win in court, if they take it to court, if they win like KU won when they didn't have to pay David Beatty his full $3 million. And remember, they had NCAA infractions they could point to. We don't know about any of those yet. Maybe Kansas State is going to self-report some NCAA infractions to try and say that that Jerome Tang should be owed less money because he was breaking the rules. And actually, we knew about it, but it wasn't a big deal until we decided we had to fire him, which I always think is really silly. But again, that's why you don't do this. That's why you don't fire for cause unless like you've got real cause. Real, gonna hold up in court cause. To the extent, though, that they were to win, if they were to win in court and pay Jerome Tang less than that money, it'd be a Pyrrhic victory because you'd probably be spending that money on legal fees, lawyer fees, because you're going to really have to lawyer up if you want to beat Tom Mars and Bennett Spire in sports court. Those guys are really good. There's a reason that Brian Kelly hired Bennett Spire, and there's a reason LSU, like 2 days later, was like, okay, actually, yeah, here's your $54 million in full. So that's money, obviously, that Kansas State just doesn't have lying around, $18.675 million. Because if they did, they pay it. And it's money that once they come up off of it and write that check to Jerome Tang, they cannot use to hire a new coach, hire his assistants, hire his support staff, or divert to the NIL budget for players. Are you familiar with the concept of the sin eater? Maybe you're not as up on 17th to 19th century British or Welsh history as I am. I took a literature class, Brit Lit class. This is where I learned about this in college. DePauw University education coming through for me today. The idea of the sin eater was a ritual where if somebody died, the sin eater would consume a meal off of the body of the deceased, like bread, ale, meat, just he would consume a meal off of the body of the deceased. Sound gross? It is. But the idea behind the ritual is that the sin eater would be absolving the sins, eating the sin of the dead. And so that the dead soul would be purified and could then ascend to heaven. And so, great ritual for the dead, right? But the sin eater ended up being shunned, looked down upon by society. Because if you're absorbing the sin, like, what does that make you? That's what the sin eater is. That's what the next coach at Kansas State is going to be. The next men's basketball coach at Kansas State is going to have to be the sin eater for the Jerome Tang mistake. They are going to have to endure a year zero. Who's coming back to this program next year? Maybe Castillo and Manning? Fingers crossed? Are those guys good enough to start a foundation with? I don't know. At a bare minimum, you're looking at year zero in your first year. And then you got to build this thing, a real sustainable program from scratch. And you're probably going to have to do it at a less competitive salary than other Power 5 programs who are going to go into the market and look to hire a coach this year without an $18.675 million millstone hanging around its neck. And do you know who that isn't going to appeal to? Josh Schertz, Jared Calhoun, Travis Steele, the names at the top of everybody's hot boards. Josh Schertz isn't coming to Kansas State. Jared Calhoun isn't coming to Kansas State. Take those names off the hot board. And while we're at it, to the Brad Underwood crowd, that's not happening either. Quit living in the past. Some of you would hire Frank Martin back if you could. Like, do your Googles on Frank Martin, how that's going at UMass right now. Some of y'all would want him. You would take him back in a heartbeat, even though he's had precisely one good basketball season since leaving Kansas State. You'd take him back in a heartbeat. Quit living in the past. I swear, some of you K-State basketball fans live in the past like nobody's business. You need to stop, please, for your own well-being. So this is the fact that Kansas State needs to accept. You are hiring your next coach to fire your next coach. And not in the cliched, oh, yeah, every coach gets hired to be fired sense. You are hiring a coach who is going to steady the waters. You are not hiring a coach to give you the year one Jerome Tang experience next year. You are not hiring a coach to get you back into the NCAA tournament in 2026-27. You are hiring a coach to make sure that your program does not completely bottom out and stabilizes enough so that when you've got your ducks back in a row and you're beyond the stench of the Jerome Tang era, your program and your job remain attractive to the guy after the guy. That's who you're going to have to hire. I do not think it is realistic to say that Kansas State is going to be able to be competitive and make competitive offers to the top mid-major names. I just do not think the circumstances of what Kansas State is going to deal with both financially and state of the program wise are going to dictate that. Let me throw out a more realistic name for you. You guys know Josh Eilert? Josh Eilert, I think, is a perfect guy for Gene Taylor to call. And not because I think, he's not a good coach. I have no idea how good a coach he is. But I know this. Josh Eilert is a native Kansan, born in Beloit, from Osborne, K-State player, long-time administrative assistant under Bob Huggins. He was the Dobo at West Virginia, director of basketball ops, Dobo. He was the interim head coach there after Huggy had went on his little funny drive with his bag full of spent cans. And then he was the interim head coach at Utah last year after Craig Smith got the gate. I bet he's probably happy not to feel like the Grim Reaper now because Wichita State's actually having a competitive season in the American. So he doesn't have to worry about Paul Mills getting fired midseason, taking over as the interim there. But that's where he's at right now. He's an assistant at Wichita State. No idea if Josh Eilert would be a good head coach. None. I don't think it's entirely fair to judge him by the 9-23 record he ran up at West Virginia under those circumstances. But I genuinely don't know. Is he a good in-game coach? Would he be a good recruiter? I don't know any of that. Here's what I do know. He's a K-Stater. I think he'd embrace the job. I think he'd embrace the challenges. I think he'd be embraced by fans and alumni. I think he gets what it is to be a Kansas State Wildcat. And I think that's going to be really important for the next coach. I really do. I think that's going to be more important than whether they can win right away, because I don't think anybody coming in is going to win right away. And I just think that's an unfortunate reality of where the roster is right now at Kansas State, because Jerome Tang already told you, these guys aren't coming back. They never came back. Who came back to play for Jerome Tang more than 1 year? Who came back? Last 2 years, nobody was coming back. And he told you last week, these guys weren't coming back either. So you've got nobody coming back. You've got no money for the program. You've got a donor class that would just as soon write their checks to Colin Klein for the short term. It is an appealing job for the long term at Kansas State because you can win there. Short term, somebody's going to have to eat some sin. I really believe that. I really believe that. We have some suggestions from the live chat. One, or from the text line as well. One from the 785. It's a name that's also on the hot boards. Washburn head coach Brett Ballard. I have to imagine it is a trip for former Kansas Jayhawk Brett Ballard to be on the hot board at Kansas State. I have to imagine. I know Brett a little bit. I have to imagine if he took 5 minutes to just sit and reflect on, I'm on the hot board at Kansas State. I'm somebody K-State fans want to hire. I'm a lifelong Jayhawk. And Kansas State fans don't care about that. They'd like to hire me. That's flattery is what that is. Liam jokingly throws out Greg Marshall. There's a reason he hasn't coached since Wichita State gave him the gate. That's not happening. Christopher throws out Lon Kruger. I think he's happy in retirement, but maybe he should be on the search committee. Honestly, I did see Dana Altman on one hot board. So, like, a lot of people are into the idea of a K-State retread. But here's another one from the 816. Gene Taylor's got to go. Unfortunately, the best AD is at Mizzou, one of Coach Snyder's best, Laird Beach. Too bad there's no way he'd come back home. I'll reiterate what I said, and we'll wrap up the segment here. We'll talk more about this. I've got more thoughts on it, and I know you do too. But I don't think this is tenure ending for Gene Taylor. I don't. I think there's a lot more good than bad with Gene Taylor's tenure, but this is a big mistake. And sometimes you don't recover from a mistake this size. We got What Is Wrong With You coming up next. Then we're going to talk about when fighting over a buyout goes wrong and other KU news with Michael Swain of Fog.net. That's coming up on 580 Sports Talk. It's time for What Is Wrong With You on 580 Sports Talk. Joining us today, Brendan Dworzinski. Hi, Brendan. Making some time before tonight's Washburn Coaches Show.
What's up, folks? Yes, indeed. Coming up, 6 o'clock tonight, Washburn Coaches Show. Yours truly, Brett Ballard, Laura Westling.
Brett Ballard's been in the news.
Yes, I heard.
Coaching the number 3 team in the country.
Yes.
Coming off of 2 big wins last week, including one over a previously ranked team.
Yeah, it's best in the business. There's no question. I'm obviously biased, but there's also no doubt in my mind. Yeah, beat up on Northeastern State on Saturday. Washburn really could have named their score in that game if they wanted to. And on Thursday last week, decided to beat the number 25 team in the country by 28 points. Just hammered them. Down 1 at the half and won by almost 30.
Losing did not agree with them, so they decided to go rip off a couple more wins at Lee Arena.
Real quick, just if I may interject before we get to what is wrong with you here.
You may.
If you think that the best move for Kansas State basketball is Dana Altman, I need you to call a hotline. Have you seen what's going on in Oregon? That dude,
he's going to be available for a reason.
He has looked like he'd rather be anywhere but the sideline for almost the entire time I've worked at this radio station, especially like post-COVID. They are 9-16. How does a Big Ten team who's playing like Southern Oregon and Wilmette in the non-conference go 9-16 through 25 games? How is that possible? Stop. Want better for yourself. Frank Martin has sucked since he left K-State. 1 year at South Carolina, they went insane. And literally no one can explain how other than saying, hey, remember Sindarius Thornwell? He was cool. Like, there's no other explanation. He has sucked. Want better for yourself. Want more out of your life than to say, hey, well, that was cool 15 years ago. There's cool stuff now. Want better. I want this for you. This is me trying to be a friend to you, K-State fan. Want better for yourself.
We got to get into what is wrong with you,
Dana
Michael Swain.
Altman.
I know, right? I saw him on a couple of hot boards and just like my jaw dropped. Like, no.
Goodness.
Give me your what is wrong with you today, Brendan, quickly, please.
All right, we've got a great one that starts with the phrase staggeringly stupid. We're meeting Patrick Coe, a 31-year-old man of Newcastle in England, who told 3 children that he was giving them temporary tattoos, except he lied. He gave them real tattoos.
What?
Permanently disfiguring them.
Oh, my God.
According to the Newcastle Crown Court. His actions with a home kit resulted in the 3 children suffering pain and having to take medication in case of infections. The children complained of being in pain while Coe was tattooing them, and his claim the small designs would fade has proved false. The children had to be taken to a hospital and were given preventative antibiotics for hepatitis and tetanus. One child even had a minor infection. When he was arrested, Coe claimed he didn't see anything wrong with what he had done, although since he has shown some remorse.
Why do you have a needle out? I thought this was a temporary tattoo. I would have had questions immediately. First prick of the needle, I'm out of there.
Don't you just need a warm washcloth for these?
Right?
According to the judge, the judge said, quote, this was a staggeringly stupid thing to do. We're calling him the staggeringly stupid stick and poke.
Strong entry to start the week. My story is called Pickle Brawl. A Florida couple is facing felony battery charges following a heated pickleball brawl.
Yeah, this one's gone viral.
Deputies were dispatched to Port Orange in the Spruce Creek Country Club at 11 a.m. Sunday after a 911 call described a fight on a pickleball court involving up to 20 people. 63-year-old Anthony Sapienza and his 51-year-old wife, Julianne, were arrested after multiple people sustained injuries, including a 70-year-old man. Victims say the match got heated after Anthony Sapienza accused his opponent of crossing into the kitchen, a restricted area of the court. Don't come into my kitchen. The teams exchanged verbal insults before Anthony Sapienza punched one of the victims and hit him in the face with his pickleball paddle. When a third 70-year-old individual attempted to break up the fight, he was punched. Once he was on the ground, Anthony's wife began to attack him as well. The couple fled the scene to their home, where they were later arrested and booked into a local jail. I didn't know pickleball got that heated, to be honest with you.
Oh, I will say this. I was always amazed when pickleball blew up because we played it in gym when I was in high school. And
okay.
I wasn't a real athlete, so I took gym very seriously. And I can tell you, pickleball was a big deal.
That's real.
Big deal. That's a good one. This one's blown up in the last couple of days.
Smashing a old man in the face with your pickleball paddle. It ain't that serious, man. What are you trying to go pro?
Pro pickleball tour, man. Big money.
Pickleball championships of Spruce Creek.
I'm still going to vote for the guy who gave 3 children tattoos.
Yes, everybody screwed that up. The parents, pay attention to what's happening to your children. Sir,
staggeringly stupid.
Why do you have a needle out?
Yeah.
For a temporary, what?
Ow, this hurts. Hey, that's not SpongeBob.
Why do I have the tribal armband?
Tribal armband.
Yeah. Just wanted a soccer ball. I'm going to the Liverpool match, the Newcastle match. That's our winner on What Is Wrong With You. We got Michael Swain coming up next here on 580 Sports Talk. We are joined on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline, as we are every Tuesday at this time, by Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. He covers the Kansas Jayhawks and appears with us weekly for Jayhawk Weekly. Very imaginative segment title. I know. We never workshopped it. It just stuck. Michael joins us every Tuesday at this time here on 580 Sports Talk. Michael, I'm looking through a pamphlet right now that the KU beat writer class put out a little while ago, a few years ago. It's called "So You've Decided to Fight Your Coach's Buyout." Any wisdom for the folks in Manhattan as to why maybe that's not the best idea?
That's so funny. Why isn't it the best idea? Because it ends up doing a lot more damage for everyone all around, and the people that win in the end are the coach that got fired and every lawyer involved. And I'll tell you what, like, I made a terrible life decision, and I didn't become a college sports lawyer because it's a great time to be working in legal and college sports. So, yeah, I think you can just look what happened with Jeff Long and David Beatty and all of that. Like, from the get-go, everyone knew that Jeff Long was going to get rid of him to hire his own guy. And they tried to do the whole thing. Yeah, I mean, it was such a disaster. And, I mean, if you listen to what Gene Taylor said, like, it gives a little bit of the same vibe of like, yeah, we're just going to try this. I don't even know if we really believe it, but we're going to try and see how it goes. And narrator, it's not going to go well.
I share your dismay for not getting into the college sports lawyer profession, because I was joking about this, texting with Brendan and others, that the undisputed national champion of college sports, 20 years running, billable hours. Billable hours is the undisputed national champion, always wins, never loses. And those were the things that ran up on KU and cost them more money in the end than they would have had to spend just writing David Beatty a $3 million check.
Oh, exactly. And that's the whole thing. Like, it's going to cost K-State more in the end here because they're going to have to pay Tang and they're going to have to pay the lawyers. So, I mean, yeah, it's silly. Pay the man's money. And what isn't going to help them also is I believe it was the Mercury that reported that they had gone to Tang before and said, hey, we would, if you want to sign a document that waives us having to pay you out, you can coach the rest of the season. And it's like their argument that he made disparaging comments that did not represent the university. Well, they're just going to go and argue now that, well, you guys are perfectly fine with them finishing out the season. So, I mean, it couldn't have been that bad. Like, I mean, they've just they put themselves in such a bad spot.
Michael Swain of Fog.net joining us. This is Jayhawk Weekly on 580 Sports Talk. Michael joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. All right, let's pivot back to your beat, the KU beat, and KU got beat resoundingly by Iowa State on Saturday at Hilton Coliseum. I'm of the mind that that's a pretty typical loss you take sometimes in this league to a team at home trying to get right. That's what it felt like to me, that Iowa State maybe took that one a little bit more personally. It's why they won, and I certainly understand why that's frustrating from a coaching perspective. But did you see anything from that performance that raised an eyebrow in the sense of, boy, this looks kind of like a problem or a potential problem?
Yeah, it's a good question. Not necessarily, because I think a lot of it is just conducive to what it is to play in the Ames right now, where they just play, street ball, for lack of a better term. And it's just the style of basketball. You saw last night, the way that, Iowa State and Houston were playing, like, especially early in the game, it created so many opportunities because they were playing so aggressive. And, like, KU's not going to play a combination of Hilton Coliseum and Iowa State style and the whistle they get at Hilton Coliseum in the NCAA tournament or in postseason play. So it's one of those where I think you need to kind of separate, what does the environment bring out versus what is worrisome. Now, I would say KU did not play with a lot of poise in that game, and that's something that would be a little bit of a concern, but we'll have to see what kind of, this week brings when KU goes to play Oklahoma State. So I think it's one of those, like, as soon as Iowa State lost at TCU, I was going, oh, okay, yep, this is going to be one of those games where they're going to come out ready to go. They've got their own big 2-game stretch, right? Kansas and Houston back-to-back, Saturday, Monday. So it's one of those where I don't know if the performance itself was super concerning. Now, I reserve the right to say, oh, we saw some signs there. If all of a sudden the lack of poise, the inability to, I think, be physical consistently, if some of that stuff pops up this weekend against Oklahoma State and Cincinnati, then I go back to that game and say, yeah, we started to see some of it. But that has not been a theme between some of these games that KU's won during the winning streak. So that's what makes me feel more like this was more of a one-off game than a worrying sign.
One player in particular had a rough week for the Jayhawks, even in their win Monday night against Arizona. How does KU get Trey White back on track offensively? He's really struggled of late.
Yeah, he has. I think he's got to take care of the basketball. It's just one of those where I look at him, and decision-making is so important in his game, whether it be deciding to shoot on a catch and shoot, deciding to drive, deciding to pass. It feels like at times with Trey, he gets a little sped up. And I think as of late, you saw some of that, where the turnovers have definitely increased over the last 5 games. And for him, it comes down to a question of, okay, what is your role versus what does he think his role is? I think at times early in the season, that was a challenge, was figuring out what exactly is his role. And so during the winning streak, it was very much, you're a spot-up shooter, guy who can slash off the ball, guy who can help you on the glass, and can go guard the other 3 and do a good job. Those are the things that he did well. And then I think there have just been some stuff that, it just hasn't been smooth. Now, with some of that, because the root canal, procedure he had, and having that bother him, like, I don't know. But yeah, KU needs Trey White to be better, more consistent, and knocking down threes. Because when he is playing that role at his best, man, it's so important for KU to have that floor spacing, to have that rebounding on the court. Like, KU needs him to be available and be an efficient decision maker.
Looking ahead to tomorrow night, Kansas back on the road. They are at Oklahoma State. What in your mind is the advantage that Kansas has to press in this game to make sure that they get back on the winning track? The clearest advantage you think they might have in the matchup?
Yeah, this is one of those where Oklahoma State plays really fast. And I think it's a game where KU's probably going to want to dictate the tempo. You saw it a little bit against Arizona, where periods of that game were up-tempo and fast, and KU did a good job of executing in the transition opportunities that were there. But then there are also times in the game where it was a little bit of a slower pace. I think when you look at this Oklahoma State team, and what Roy has done for them, I mean, shooting 42% on 9 attempts, like, it's incredible numbers. Like, you got to find a way to slow him down. And I'll look at Melvin Council and say, hey, can you go out there and really shut him down? I think a lot of this game just comes down to KU controlling the pace, because if all of a sudden Oklahoma State can get up and down, then you're talking high possession game. A lot can go wrong for you, where if it's a lower possession, kind of in the 60s, that you can control, that's going to play to KU's strength a little bit more with a half-court offense. You can play with Flory and pick and roll with Melvin Council. You can get Darren Peterson going. You've got a lot more in your tool shed that maybe Oklahoma State playing the high-volume style it does. Are they going to be able to be as efficient in a slower-paced game? So that's just kind of what comes to mind for me.
We're talking to Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. This is Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. Do it every Tuesday at this time. Oklahoma State on the road, Cincinnati at home on Saturday. Cincinnati obviously has had a down year. They've got a coach very much on the hot seat in Wes Miller. Is this a week you feel like Kansas goes 2-0? It's a take care of business kind of week. Never easy in this league. There's just no nights off to go. Never easy to go 2-0. But is this a must 2-0 this week for Kansas if you're talking about certainly staying in the Big 12 race, but if you're talking about maybe a top 2 seed in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, 100% it is, because I think first and foremost you got to look at the Big 12 tournament. Can KU avoid playing 4 games in 4 days? And if you get the double bye, that just helps you out so much. So you got to finish in the top 4. Obviously you can look at the schedule and KU's got a big week next week where you go play Houston at home, go play Arizona on the road. You're thinking that's a 1-1 week. So if all of a sudden KU can kind of get these winnable games here where you can chalk it up, right? It's, Oklahoma State, Cincinnati, Arizona State, K-State, right? If you take care of business in those games and you go 1-1 in the Houston, Arizona week, you feel really good about KU's chances to get that top 4 seed going into the Big 12 tournament. And then you've got the chance to play your way into being a 2 seed. You do, because you have the resume. Between the wins you've had at that point would have been over Arizona, over Iowa State at home, Houston at home and or Arizona on the road. You're just doing yourself a lot of favor. And then you get into the Big 12 tournament, and again, you got the opportunity to get more wins because the top 4 in the Big 12, it's going to be all top 10 teams. So you just look at the opportunity ahead for KU. It starts this week. Got to go 2-0. We've seen an earlier version of this KU team not go beat a team that's about as good as Oklahoma State on the road in UCF. So can you show that growth right over the course of the season to now you can go on the road and take care of business in one of these games? And if they do, then you feel pretty good about where they stand going in Cincinnati. And then the ball kind of gets rolling from there. So I do agree. I think it's a really big week for KU in terms of Big 12 tournament seeding, and then also as they kind of make this late push to try and get on the 2 line. But worst case scenario, right, you're helping yourself on the 3 line.
We, of course, could not possibly have a KU basketball conversation without bringing up Darren Peterson, who did not play well in the loss on Saturday. And Iowa State is the kind of defensive team that can make it hard on any ball-handling guard, particularly ball-handling guard coming off of an illness, maybe dealing with the lingering effects of that ankle injury suffered against Colorado. But beyond those very valid excuses for Peterson's play and his struggles, what can KU do to kind of get him rolling again? How can they help him get back to his best form beyond just returning to full capacity, as I'm sure he will in these final 2 weeks?
I'm not sure if there's too much his teammates can do. I think a lot of it comes down to Darren. Because I look at the game and it wasn't his teammates weren't putting him in good position. It was just that Iowa State, every time Darren touched the ball, they just collapsed into the paint and basically hacked him. But you can look back at Utah and you can look back at Texas Tech. I don't know if you call it a freshman wall because he's not played enough for it to be a freshman wall. But his performances have kind of dipped a little bit in terms of their efficiency. So I would look at this and say, I think it should come down to Darren. Can you make shots? Can you make passes out of the pick and roll? When teams double you and track you, can you make decisions quicker? I think a lot of it just genuinely comes down to Darren getting back into the form that you saw earlier this year. And it's kind of crazy to think back to that BYU game and just, man, how dominant he was in the first half of that game. And then you look at Texas Tech, right? The ensuing game, it wasn't great. It was fine against Utah. Obviously, he makes shots against Tech, but generally, right, that wasn't an efficient game. Utah, and now you talk about Iowa State. It's just been, since the BYU game, it's been 10 days of just kind of bleh. Still really good, right? Still backdoors way into 18 points, but it's one of those where he has struggled to reach that same level he had against BYU. And I don't think it's on anyone but himself. It happens. So I think it's going to come down to Darren kind of figuring things out himself. And I'm not sure if there's too much more, his teammates can do.
Michael Swain covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Become a VIP subscriber today and get access to all of Michael's inside VIP info about Jayhawk athletics. He joins us every Tuesday on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for Jayhawk Weekly. Michael, it is always a pleasure. We'll do it again next week.
Awesome. Sounds great. Talk to you next week.
That is Michael Swain. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll wrap up this 4 o'clock hour, get you set for the final hour of today's 580 Sports Talk. .455 on 580 Sports Talk. Thanks again to Michael Swain, Fog.net, for joining us. If you missed our chat with Michael or our earlier conversation with Matt Verderame, our NFL insider, catch him on the podcast, 580WIBW.com, or follow us on Spotify, 580 Sports Talk. The video archive is available as well on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. Go subscribe to be notified when we go live or drop other content, like some YouTube shorts. You'll be seeing some more of those as we go into the future. In case you miss some of the show, we'll give you some of our greatest hits, if you will, in YouTube short form. So you've got that to look forward to if you subscribe to us over at 580 Sports Talk. We have one more hour of the program today and plenty of stuff to discuss in that final hour. More on the fallout from Jerome Tang's firing on Sunday. Still looking for your reaction on that. Would love to hear what you think. 785-272-9429 on the text line or in the YouTube chat, 580 Sports Talk. Let me know where you think K-State should look for their next head coach. I am kind of pessimistic on this. I do not believe that Kansas State is going to be able to lure the top names on everybody's hot boards. I don't think Josh Schertz is coming to take this job and bringing his roster at St. Louis with him for the kind of budget that they're going to have realistically at Kansas State for basketball after they finish paying Jerome Tang all his money, because they're going to pay him all his money. Again, I want to be very clear about that. They're going to pay that man all his money. And if they don't end up paying him all his money, it's going to cost him more than it would have to have paid him all his money to not pay him all his money. It's a lose-lose for Kansas State athletics at this point, and why I think it was such a bad decision to proceed with firing him for cause. We'll also get to some headlines in the next hour. We got an Olympic roundup to get to. First weekend of college baseball. We'll wrap that up. We'll go to the winner's circle. Michael Jordan won the Daytona 500. His driver did. I don't know the driver's name. I know Michael Jordan. He won the Daytona 500. We'll get into that, a whole bunch more. Tyreek Hill getting cut, whether I think that's a good idea for the Chiefs, it's not, and much, much more on final hour of 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 3, 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday. Quite a welcome back from our 3-day weekend. My name is Dan Lucero. Thanks for joining me on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and our Facebook page, WIBW News. Great to be with you. We got one more hour together on this Tuesday. At 7 o'clock tonight, pregame coverage from the K-State Sports Network from Learfield as the Matt Driscoll era of Kansas State basketball begins. The Kansas State Wildcats will be led out by their interim head coach tonight as they take on the Baylor Bears, still seeking a second Big 12 conference win this season. Pre-game coverage again at 7 o'clock. Tip-off from Bramlage at 8. You can catch Wyatt and Stan right here on your home of the Wildcats, 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. You can interact with the show here in the final hour. Want to hear from you on the text line, 785-272-9429, 785-272-9429. You can also interact with us in the live chat on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. Watch us. It's 5 o'clock, 5:09 to be precise. You're done working. If you're still at a computer, but you're not working anymore, fire up the YouTube. Or pull us up on your phone, your tablet. 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. And join the live chat. Say hello to, we got our diehards in the 5 o'clock hour. See both Marks and Jeffrey's in. Vance usually in the 5 o'clock. We get our diehards in there in the 5 o'clock hour. And I would love to have you join the fray and say hello. And give your thoughts on, of course, the big news of the weekend, the firing of Jerome Tang by Kansas State and the claim that the firing was for cause, but we would still let you coach out the rest of the year if you just take a little less money. Otherwise, your behavior was so appalling that we have to fire you for cause. Do you see how that doesn't make sense? Like, do you see how that doesn't make sense? Don't think this ends well. Don't think this ends well for Kansas State. Unless they are working right now on dotting the I's and crossing the T's on an $18.675 million check to Jerome Tang to avoid litigation. Avoiding litigation is the move, especially against Jerome Tang's lawyers. The crew he's got assembled, you want to avoid litigation against those guys. So we'll have some more thoughts on that later on. And what's it going to look like under Matt Driscoll, these final at least 7 games? If there were any more, probably would be a bit of an upset. I mean, Kansas State's going to be bottom 2 in the conference. They're going to have to play first day of the Big 12 tournament. They'll be underdogs in that game, in all likelihood. 6 regular season games, at least 1 conference tournament game. Probably not much beyond that, you would have to assume, on current form. What does it look like, and does it even really matter to the future of Kansas State basketball? Maybe in one way, and we'll get to that a little bit later on. Again, 7 o'clock pregame, 8 o'clock tip here on 580 WIBW. Also tonight, the Washburn Basketball Coaches Show with our pal Brendan Dworzinski, the voice of the Ichabods. He'll talk to Brett Ballard and Laura Wessling out at Skinny Sports Bar and Grill here in the capital city on the corner of Huntoon and Gage in Topeka, where every day is game day and where tonight it's Taco Tuesday. I used to do that with my wife before we had a baby, and then going to bar and grill type places stopped being like the wave, stopped being like an easy place. It's hard right now. Like, again, if you've raised a toddler, you know this. There gets to be a point where it gets really, really hard to take your toddler out to eat. We are there. We are there. We don't dare do it without reinforcements most of the time. If grandma doesn't come with her arsenal of toys and an extra set of hands, we have some trouble getting our kiddo out to eat these days. A lot more takeout for the Luceros these days. But we used to do Taco Tuesday at Skinny's, and it hits every single time. So you can go out and do that tonight and enjoy the Washburn Basketball Coaches Show. Or if you can't make it to Skinny's, catch it on our sister station, your home of the Ichabods, Country 106.9. Again, that starts at 6 o'clock tonight. Still to come on the show, again, some more thoughts on K-State basketball, where it goes in the short term. Gave you my thoughts long term. And again, I don't like being Debbie Downer when it comes to Kansas State basketball, because I do think, and I said explicitly, Maybe some of you didn't hear me say this. Some of you who've texted the program maybe didn't hear me say this or hear it clearly enough. But I said Kansas State basketball is a good job. That is a good program with great fan support, a lot of passion behind that program, some NIL backing behind that program. But you're also going to be facing a bit of a shortfall. And I think in the short term, donors who would maybe rather write their checks to the football program, support one of their own, Colin Klein, alumni who would rather support one of their own. And I think the basketball program is going to have a hard time the next 2-3 years. I think they're going to have a hard time attracting a top coaching candidate, at least the ones that are on top of all of the hot boards. And I think they're in for some choppy waters. I think they need to bring in somebody who's going to steady those waters. I threw Josh Eilert's name out there as a possibility, somebody who knows the ins and outs of what a good basketball program, a winning basketball program should look like, from the bench to the administrative side. And he's a K-Stater. He's a Kansan. He gets what it means to put on that uniform. And if there was a chasm between what it means and what these players the last couple of seasons under Jerome Tang understood it to mean, somebody like Eilert can bridge that gap. Do I think he'd win a ton of ball games? I have no idea. Honestly, I don't. It would be unfair of me to say I know, because he's never been the head guy. He's been an interim coach on 2 occasions, and it's never easy to be the interim coach, as Matt Driscoll's about to find out starting tonight. But do I think that would be a guy who could who would bring enthusiasm and would bring some different energy and would be relatable to fans and alumni and could help to just steady things, to get Kansas State basketball back on steady ground? Because I don't think people really understand how far from steady ground Kansas State basketball is on right now, and how hard it's going to be to get back there, and how not immediate that process, I think, is going to be. But more on that, again, a little bit later on. Get to some baseball. We'll continue our countdown to opening day. 39 days to opening day. If you can name the best number 39 to wear a Royals uniform in the text or the group chat, I'll be impressed. like that old Mitch Hedberg joke. I don't even remember the setup, but I remember the punchline. I'll be bleeping surprised. I just remember the punchline from that Mitch Hedberg one-liner. But that's how I will feel if you, off the top of your head, can give me the best number 39 in Royals history. And no, it was not Chris Medlin. He wasn't bad. He wasn't the most recent one either, come to think. But get to a couple of Royals thoughts, a couple of straight KU thoughts from the weekend. They got blasted by Iowa State on Saturday. I was so sick, I didn't get to watch it live. I said this in the 3 o'clock hour. We had a stomach bug hit the Luceros in order over the end of last week, and it got me Friday into Saturday, laid me low. So I did not watch a lot of live basketball over the weekend. I was trying to stay alive and make sure as best I could, though I was no help on Saturday. I was no help, I'm sure. Just trying to make sure my kiddo survived Saturday as best I could help, which was, again, not much. But some stray thoughts on that game as well. Headlines, your text, 785-272-9429, and your comments in the live chat on YouTube. But let's get to some headlines, shall we? And we'll start with a couple of local headlines, local college sports headlines to get to. It's been a rough year for Kansas women's basketball, and that is a program where a lot of its fans are hoping for a leadership change. That is just what I'm hearing. I am not here to pass judgment. I've watched enough of them play to know. I just feel like they're a little more talented to be so middle of the road in the conference this year. I thought they had too much talent to be this middling in the Big 12 this season. But you know who's not middling? Jalea Davis, the outstanding freshman out of Blue Valley North. 7 consecutive Big 12 Freshman of the Week honors for Jalea Davis. She is the first women's basketball player ever to win that award 7 weeks in a row. That is noteworthy, I think. That's pretty cool. That is worth noting today. Congratulations to Jalea Davis. Also worth noting today, there are now 50 finalists for the Bevo Francis Award. list goes to the best small college basketball player in the country, down to a top 50 watch list. The Bevo Francis Award goes to the best player from NCAA Division I, Division II, NAIA, USCAA, and NCCAA. And 2 of those 50 players nationwide are Washburn Ichabods. One of them is Topeka's own Jack Batchelor, former Washburn Rural star, the junior point guard. One of them is sophomore big man Dylan Clausen from Omaha, Nebraska. Clausen leads the Ichabods in scoring and rebounding, 10th in the country in field goal percentage. Jack Batchelor averaging 15 points a game. He's the team leader in assists and made 3-pointers. They are a big part of the reason why the Ichabods are the 3rd-ranked team in the country in the latest NABC Top 25 poll. They are 24-1 on the season, received a pair of first-place votes this week out of the 15 given in the NABC coaches poll. Nova Southeastern, the defending national champs, they are number 1 for a second straight week, 11 of the 15 first-place votes. Undefeated Cal State East Bay got 3 of the first-place votes. They are ranked 2nd. Then Washburn at number 3. The only other team ranked from the MIAA is Central Missouri, into the poll at number 25. I think they're a heck of a lot better than that, personally, but they are in the poll this week at number 25. Also, Rockhurst into the poll this week, having a nice year out there in KC Mo. They are 19-5 overall. They're 23rd in the NABC Top 25. But again, 2 of the 50 finalists for the Bevo Francis Award are Ichabods, Jack Batchelor and Dylan Clausen. And congrats are in order to both. While we're doing local college sports, college baseball opened this weekend. Did you get to watch any? All of the K-State games were streamed for free on MLB.com and the MLB app. You could have watched all of K-State's games this weekend. I think all of KU's games were on ESPN+. ESPN+, if you like college baseball, you can't not get ESPN+. You watch every game from everywhere. Schools you never heard of. But college baseball did open this weekend. Again, didn't watch a lot of live sports this weekend as they were happening. Certainly not Saturday. But did make a note of this. K-State 4-0 in their trip to surprise Arizona, and 4 solid wins for the Wildcats as they open up their campaign. They were very impressive in wins over Iowa, UConn, Penn State. They beat Penn State 24-5. They shortened that one to 7 innings. And then they beat Air Force yesterday afternoon. So 4-0 start for the Cats. KU lost their opener at UTRGV. That's Texas Rio Grande Valley, but rebounded to win the next 2. So a season series, opening series win to start the season for the Jayhawks. And that's a good Vaquero team, by the way. They won 36 games last year. So that wasn't some, I know they're from a small conference. That wasn't some pushover that Kansas went and lost their opener to. They picked up 2 wins out of 3. They have a midweek game this week. They play Lamar tomorrow night. They're still down in Texas. So KU's 4th game coming up midweek. But good starts to the season for both Wildcats and the Jayhawks on the diamond. Let's get to some national sports headlines. We got to start with this one. Oh, my goodness. This is a weird one. Major League Baseball Players Association Executive Director Tony Clark resigned today. The head of the Players Union, 10 months out of the expiration of the collective bargaining agreement, quit his job today. Interesting timing, right? And there was an investigation that he was under for some finances and other alleged improprieties, some questions about what he was doing as the head of the Players Association with some of the finances, some other improprieties that were being investigated, and everybody kind of assumed, oh, well, that must be why he's resigning. Nope. He was boinking his sister-in-law. Wait, what? Yeah, that's what happened. An internal investigation revealed that he had an inappropriate relationship with his sister-in-law, who was hired by the union in 2023. Now, this is what I don't know. But I'm a little interested in. So is it his wife's sister, or was it his brother's wife? Was it his sister's wife? I'm not here to judge how people live their lives. But was it his wife's sister or a sibling's wife? because I think one of those is way worse than the other. Do we have time to get messy? Let's get a little messy. I think one of those is way worse than the other. I think cheating on your wife's sister blows up. Like, either way, your marriage is over, right? Like, generally speaking, you don't survive infidelity. A lot of marriages don't survive infidelity. Most marriages don't survive infidelity, but you definitely don't survive infidelity with your wife's sister. Like, your marriage is over, right? Like, instantly at that point. That's unforgivable. But if it's your brother's wife, not only is your marriage over, now your family's not going to talk to you. You're messing around with your brother's wife. How could you do that? That's way worse, as far as I'm concerned. Maybe you think differently. Text the show if you think I'm wrong. 785-272-9429. But way worse to mess around on your brother's wife than your wife's sister. But anyway, we don't know that detail. We just know that's why the Major League Baseball Players Association does not have a leader today, 10 months away from the expiration of the collective bargaining agreement. And what we all anticipate all year long will be a behind-the-scenes, knockdown, drag-out fight to try and either get one codified or at the very least avoid a lockout. Bad timing. Bad move by Tony Clark. Wasn't very good at his job in the first place, and now he has to resign because he was doing it with his sister-in-law, who he hired to work a no-show job in the union. Great stuff. Great stuff, Tony. I could have done half the show just on that. Honest to God, I'm cutting it down for time. Next up on headlines, big NFL headline from the weekend: the Miami Dolphins are going to work trimming the fat on their salary cap, getting rid of some injured veterans. Former Pro Bowl linebacker Bradley Chubb will be released, and so will former Kansas City Chief wide receiver Tyreek Hill, who dislocated a knee and tore an ACL in week 4. The 32-year-old, well, he'll be 32 in a month, will be a free agent for the first time in his 10-year career. Tyreek Hill has not been shy in the past about his desire to return to Kansas City to finish his career. Chris Jones tweeted a message of support for the idea when the news broke that Tyreek Hill was being released. 2 reasons this is a terrible idea for the Chiefs. Number 1, you got to start looking forward what your offense is going to look like and stop looking back. Like, the longer you hold on to the thread of Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes, the less it keeps you from being able to actually evolve your offense into what it's going to look like for the next championship teams in Kansas City. And that's not to say that, I think that's not me saying Travis Kelce needs to retire. Travis Kelce wants to come back, play 14th season. I think everybody would be happy to have him back. But the offense can't be Travis Kelce-centric. It can't be dependent on Travis Kelce. It has to be Travis Kelce adds something. He can't be the primary ingredient anymore. I think we started to see that evolution past that last year, and then he ended up having a really good year. But the offense needs to evolve beyond we are so reliant on Mahomes to make magic and the mind meld he has with this one receiver, this all-pro Hall of Fame tight end. And then bringing Tyreek Hill back would only entrench you further into we're going to do what worked in the past. No, you need to do what works now. Defenses are different than they were in 2019 and 2020. The league is changing. You better change too. So that's the one that's the football reason. That, and he's 32 and he just blew up his knee. And if he doesn't have the elite speed, like the one-of-one speed, Tyreek Hill's just a small wide receiver. And the Chiefs have enough of those guys. So there's that part of it too. The other part of it is, we talked about this with Matt Verderame. The Chiefs don't care, right, about players who commit transgressions, particularly against women, off the field. Like, that's pretty well documented. They don't care about that stuff. Like, most teams don't, but the Chiefs really don't, and have a long track record. They don't care, and they didn't care when they drafted Tyreek Hill in the 5th round, despite the allegation and the guilty plea in his assault against his girlfriend when he was back in college. The guy kicked out of Oklahoma State. Like, they didn't care. They drafted him. They reaped the benefits of being the team willing to take the chance on the miscreant. But at least when you do it then, and again, this is a very thin veneer of defense. And if you're inclined to puncture through it, I understand. But At least when you draft the miscreant out of college, your thought can be, well, we're going to get him in a professional environment. We're going to get him around some veterans. We're going to get him in a stable situation around a veteran coaching staff. And he's going to straighten out. He's going to walk the straight and narrow. He's not going to be that immature 18-year-old that choked and beat his pregnant girlfriend. He's going to be a different person. We're going to make sure of that. We believe in second chances. Well, Tyreek Hill got his second chance and his third chance and his fourth chance, and he's just a bad person. He is a bad human being, verifiably. Everything he's been accused of, everything he's been wrapped up with, the way he has treated women, the way he has run through women, the way that he has multiple baby mamas, he's a bad guy. And I don't think the Chiefs should want to be associated with Tyreek Hill anymore. I think it was questionable to associate with him in the first place, but at least they got the ring out of it. I think he has shown his true colors to the point where if I were any team, not worth it. Especially if you're not running a 4.2 40 anymore. So that's my thought on Tyreek Hill. That's a hard no for me for the Kansas City Chiefs. Next headline. Sacramento State is joining the Mid-America Conference for football. Yes, Sacramento State, as in Sacramento in California, is joining the Mid-America Conference for football. They're going to pay $18 million for the privilege. For comparison's sake, Northern Illinois is paying the Mountain West $2 million to join that league. Sac State is willing to pay $18 million, and they're not even coming from FBS. They're coming from FCS. They're not even a good FCS program. They went 7-5 last year, and their coach left to be the offensive coordinator at Colorado. And this is not a program like Montana or Montana State or North Dakota State or North Dakota where you've got this like, oh, well, we got great fan base, great fan support. Nobody in Sacramento cares about the Sac State Hornets. Their attendance numbers will show you this. But Sacramento State is going to pay $18 million to join, again, the Mid-America Conference, which could create the hilarious thought of a conference game in the Mid-America Conference between Sacramento State and UMass. Maybe they could meet somewhere in Middle America, like Omaha. Omaha. Sorry, had to do it. The university president, Dr. Luke Wood, posted to X some benefits he thinks Sac State's going to get for making this move and says that there is an estimated economic impact of $975 million and national broadcast value of $675 million over the next 5 years. And I just want to know how much somebody got paid to come up with those obviously fake baloney numbers for Dr. Luke Wood and the Sacramento State University. Somebody got paid to show Dr. Luke those numbers and say, oh yeah, you guys are gonna do, we're gonna do crazy well in the Mid-America, $675 million in national broadcast value. It's the MAC, man. You're playing on Tuesday nights. Half-empty stadiums in Ohio. Bonkers. Feels like a Ponzi scheme. Keep an eye on that one. There's some funny money going on there. I got a feeling that's going to go sideways. All right, two things to wrap up the headlines today. We go to the winner's circle. We do this when there are like big sports events from the weekend that we don't really have a full segment to devote to, but people won these events. So let's get in the winner's circle with Tyler Reddick, your winner of the Daytona 500. Some big old wrecks at Daytona, including one on the last lap, but a daring pass by Reddick. It was really cool. I did watch the final lap. Very, very cool driving from Reddick. A daring pass on the final lap. The gamble paid off, and Tyler Reddick has won his first Daytona 500. Michael Jordan wins his first Daytona 500 as an owner. Had to feel pretty good for old MJ. Probably had to feel as good as those 6 championships he won as a bull, right? Pretty cool stuff. Tyler Reddick, your winner at Daytona. Colin Morikawa on the PGA Tour wins for the first time since 2023, taking the Pebble Beach Pro-Am by a shot over Minwoo Lee. Good tournament. Love Pebble Beach. Colin Morikawa, kind of a forgotten man on tour. Been 3 years since he'd won. Remember, he's got 2 majors. He's one of the best players of his era. Still very young, but lost his way a little bit over the last few years. A contender, but hadn't been able to get back into the big money. And maybe a win at Pebble Beach turns it around and makes him a real formidable contender for the majors in 2026. All right, now it's time for the Olympic Roundup. The Olympic Roundup. Olympic Roundup. On 580 Sports Talk. Olympic Roundup. Short one today. Not a lot of medal events that the United States could really expect to compete in. Germany won all the medals in the men's two-man bobsled. We don't ever medal in biathlon or Nordic combined. But we did, Team USA, pull in a couple of silver medals today. First in the speed skating men's team pursuit. The team of Casey Dawson, Ethan Seperon, and Emery Lehman took the silver behind the home team from Italy. It was a bit of an upset. Team USA is the world champion and the world record holder in that event, but it's never won gold at the Olympics in the event. I don't know. The Olympics doesn't bring out the best in everybody. Apparently not our men's team pursuit team in speed skating. Also winning a silver medal today, the delightfully named Mac Forehand in big air freestyle skiing. He took the silver behind Norway's Tormod Frostad, I'm not sure how you pronounce the name, in big air freestyle skiing. I actually watched some of that. It was in the snow, so it was really cool. I thought my guy Mac got robbed, frankly. I think the judges were nuts to give Tormod a 98.5 on his last run, because it was the same score they gave Mac, and Mac's run was better, in my opinion. Also, Team USA men's hockey knows their quarterfinal opponent in the medal round. It'll be Sweden, who dumped Latvia 5-1 earlier today. So a very good team is going to be eliminated tomorrow in the men's ice hockey tournament, as the quarterfinal action is set for tomorrow. Germany and Slovakia play the early game for us, 5:10 a.m. Then you've got Canada versus Czechia, Finland and Switzerland, and Sweden and the United States. All systems still point to a United States-Canada final, but frankly, neither the U.S. or Canada has been entirely convincing, even though they have each won their 3 games in the preliminaries. That's your Olympic Roundup. We'll take a break. We'll come back. Some more thoughts on the weekend that was, including Jerome Tang's firing, KU getting beat, and 39 days to opening day. The countdown continues on 580 Sports Talk. Folks, still got a chance to win our cold cash of $1,000. You can enter now for your chance to win. Just head to 580WIBW.com to sign up. Easy to enter, easy to win from 580 WIBW. Go sign up today. Your chance to win $1,000. That easy. Sign up. You're entered to win. You need a code word. You don't need my permission. 580WIBW.com. Click Contests tab, not the Contents tab. Contests. And that is your chance to win. Some thoughts from the text line from the 913 regarding possible reunion with Tyreek Hill. Sign to the practice squad. Don't elevate him out of spite. That's one way to handle it, I suppose. I don't know. I don't know why, unequivocally, Tyreek Hill has been given chance after chance to, change the person that he is and has made it abundantly clear that he has no interest in doing that. He's just going to be terrible. I just don't know at this point why you would associate with it. I knew why the Chiefs were willing to associate it with it when they drafted him, because he was fast as hell and he was a Hall of Fame talent sitting there in the 5th round. And the Chiefs reaped those benefits, won a ring, got what they were looking for from the transaction. And I think there's nothing more to be gained from the association anymore. If Hill's even going to play in 2026 is an open question. What kind of player is he going to be coming off? I mean, that is a catastrophic knee injury, a torn ACL and a knee dislocation. And you don't come back from that the same at 32. He's not going to be the cheat anymore. He's going to be like a little bit more like a house cat. Just a small wide receiver with decent speed. And the Chiefs have 1 million of those guys. They don't need another one. Jeffrey in the YouTube chat said Tyreek Hill may fit in Vegas. Honestly, don't hate that. They need some playmakers at wide receiver. They don't have any. They got playmaker tight end. I like the running back. I think Genty will be okay, even though he wasn't great as a rookie. But that makes a little more sense. Also, Vance asking in the live chat, didn't Tyreek say Tua was a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes? Of course he did. That was his podcast. Oh, yeah, man. You talk about the handle the Chiefs have on their guys, that as soon as Tyreek Hill left, he had a podcast. As soon as he wasn't a Chief anymore, he had a podcast. Remember the title of it? It Needed to Be Said. And nothing in the history of Tyreek Hill's podcast ever needed to be said. There was nothing there that needed to be said. So, yeah, but he did. That was one of the things that he did say in the course of that. A couple of other things to get to here, just kind of a grab bag of a segment here before we get back into K-State basketball to wrap up the show. Kansas lost big at Iowa State on Saturday, and it doesn't really bother me much in the grand scheme, because it felt like college basketball, especially in the Big 12, a lot of games that I call spot games, where that's a really hard one for you to win. And not impossible, but it's a situation where you are going into just a spot that is a hard spot. Playing on the road on Big Monday is a spot game every single time. You win that one, great, you stole it. But that is not one where you would expect. In the NBA, you call them schedule losses. Like, if you've got a back-to-back in Utah and Denver, and the second night of your back-to-back at altitude is against the better team, schedule loss. You're going to lose that game by 25. It is what it is. So maybe that's a better way to put it. Maybe that sounds a little better. Schedule loss. Felt like a bit of a schedule loss for Kansas, given the emotion of the previous 3 games that they had to play, given Iowa State's need to get back into form, given you're going on the road, given it's a Saturday afternoon. That was always going to be a tough one for Kansas. And they didn't play well. Michael Swain laid it out for us on Jayhawk Weekly in the 4 o'clock hour. They didn't play with a lot of poise, which is really uncharacteristic of this Kansas team. But it is so uncharacteristic to the point where I feel like it was kind of a one-off. Don't feel like it was a long-term concern the way Kansas played on Saturday. They got Oklahoma State tomorrow. We'll talk more about that on tomorrow's show. The other thing that I want to do. We're doing it every day on the program until we get to March 27th when the Kansas City Royals open the Major League Baseball season against the Atlanta Braves. Continue our countdown to opening day. We are 39 days away from opening day. There is not a number 39 on the Royals active roster or spring training roster. The last Royal to wear number 39 was Jason Hamill. Rocky great. Jason Hamill. That didn't work out great for the Royals. He was at the end. I don't think he pitched anywhere after Kansas City, in fact. I think he was so bad in 2018 that was the end of the line for Jason Hamill. But in his day, he was a good starting pitcher. Had good years in Colorado, which should tell you all you need to know about the kind of pitcher Jason Hamill was when he was good. Had a couple good years with the Cubs. I think he won a title with the Cubs in 2016. Ended up on the Royals 2017, 2018. Didn't work out great for him there. Some of you were able to come up with the most notable number 39, call him the most famous number 39 in Royals history. That would, of course, be the Mad Hungarian, Al Raboski. They don't make nicknames like that one anymore, the Mad Hungarian. Definitely the most famous former 39, no question about that. The best number 39 for the Royals, nobody came up with his name, and I understand if you did not, maybe some of you old-timers will remember Al Fitzmaurice, who wore number 39 for his last 3 years with the club, which happened to be his best. A right-handed starting pitcher who, over the course of the time he wore number 39, from 1973, so his last 4 years, to 1976, had his 4 best and most valuable big league seasons, including a year where he went 13-6 with a 2.79 ERA in 1974. Also helped the 76 Royals to a West Division title, going 15-11 that year with a 3.06 ERA. Went to Cleveland next year. Arm went, was never the same, was done at age 32. But by wins above replacement, the best number 39 in Royals history, Al Fitzmaurice. So now you learned something today. Hope we can talk about a current player tomorrow. I love talking. I love remembering guys, and I know there are some of you who remember those guys from the Royals in the 70s and appreciate the walk down memory lane. But maybe we'll get to somebody current on the roster with number 38. I haven't looked ahead. When we come back, the post Jerome Tang era starts tonight for the Kansas State Wildcats. We'll talk about that when we come back on 580 Sports Talk. 549 on 580 Sports Talk. Real quick, wanted to highlight this from Bill in the live chat on YouTube because I think it is a good point in favor of the argument for bringing Tyreek Hill back to Kansas City. Bill says the X factor is Tyreek never seemed to butt heads with Eric Bieniemy. There did seem to be a good relationship there between head coach and, or rather, between offensive coordinator and player. Obviously, he and Mahomes got on great. He and Kelsey got on great. Like, he was really well liked in that locker room by all accounts and would probably be embraced again by those veterans. And Chris Jones begging for it, not begging for it, but excited about the possibility of it on social media when he got released yesterday. Like, that's the argument for, right? Like, you bring him into this locker room, it would be harmonious. People would be excited to have him back. I just find the argument against to be much more voluminous and much more compelling. But thank you for that, Bill. Good shout on the live chat. Great live chat today. I've gotten to as many comments as I can, even the ones that I had not gotten to. It's been good dialogue in the chat. Been great stuff on the text line today as well. Again, 785-272-9429. Tonight, Kansas State starts the post-Jerome Tang era. The Wildcats host the Baylor Bears at Bramlage Coliseum. You can catch the game right here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. Matt Driscoll is your interim head coach, formerly the head coach at North Florida, joined Tang's staff, left his head coaching job to be an assistant, and now not really sure what his future holds. Is he going to be retained? Is he a serious candidate to be the next head coach at Kansas State? I have my doubts about that, but maybe he is. My doubts and a buck will buy you a newspaper. Will K-State look any different as a team with Jerome Tang no longer the coach? I don't know. Like, Matt Driscoll's whole thing when he was coach at North Florida is his teams played with a lot of pace and they shot a ton of threes. And we saw, at least early in the season, Kansas State tried to incorporate some elements of that, and they shot a ton of threes. End of the day, really, with his Kansas State team, people look back, oh, man, they were 5-1 with a narrow loss to a really good Nebraska team. They look great. What happened? Well, they were shooting like 50% from three in those first 6 games. When they stopped doing that, which they were always going to do, they weren't as good. Pretty simple and plain. Like, if you're just talking about the on-court of it, that's what happened. But the problem with trying to do that right now, like, we're going to play with more pace. We're going to shoot more threes. All right, who is shooting those threes? Because this team's 2 best shooters are hurt. Andre Kostic is hurt, and Abdi Bashir, of course, is hurt. PJ Haggerty's not really a three-point shooter. You don't want him doing that anyway. You want him attacking. Nate Johnson is a decent three-point shooter. Marcus Johnson's not shy. We know that. But this isn't a team as currently constructed. The guys you have, you're not going to go play 7 seconds or less, shoot 45 threes and call it good. Like, that would make a lot of sense. So I don't think you're going to see anything real different style of play-wise. Energy, effort, who knows? Having your coach fired is probably a bit of a wake-up call for some guys. I'm sure the Cincinnati press conference was a wake-up call for some guys. But I wouldn't expect the style to change. I wouldn't really expect the results to change a whole lot either in these final 6 regular season games. Tip-off at 8 o'clock, which means pregame coverage at 7 from the K-State Sports Network here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. When we come back, wrap up with a final word about a different basketball coach and a cat. I'll make it make sense. We'll wrap up the show today. Final word time on 580 Sports Talk. This one is a little personal today. Doug Moe passed away today at the age of 87. If that's a name you're familiar with, you must be an old school NBA fan. Doug Moe was an ABA player, played North Carolina before that, and went on to a long career as an NBA head coach, most notably of my favorite team, the Denver Nuggets. He was their coach in the 1980s. His innovative passing game, which he described, again, the innovator of the passing game offense, described the offense as, quote, just doing whatever the hell you want, was one of the most exciting parts of NBA basketball in the 1980s, guided the Nuggets to 432 wins in his time as their head coach, a number I have memorized because it hangs in the rafters at the Nuggets home arena in Denver. Doug Moe was the coach of the Nuggets when I was a little kid, and one of the people, as such, that is responsible in a small way, just like every of the sports figures of my youth, for my lifelong obsession with the games that we all love to watch. And I was as Nuggets obsessed as a 3-year-old could possibly be when my parents decided it was time for the Lucero family, which at the time was just the 3 of us, to add a pet. So we went to the Denver Dumb Friends League, the humane shelter, and we adopted a cat. We adopted a orange tabby cat, and they let me name it. And little nugget-obsessed 3-year-old Dan decided to name the cat Doug Moe. Name the cat after the head coach of the Denver Nuggets. Now, about a few short months later, Doug Moe was no longer the coach of the Denver Nuggets. I tried to rename the cat Paul Westhead. That didn't really take, and, well, neither did Westhead in Denver. But the point remains, Doug Moe was a good cat. A little irascible, cantankerous, ornery in some of the same ways his namesake was, but a really good cat and a really good coach. And part of the reason that I love sports the way that I love sports, not just as a coach, but also as a media personality that I was exposed to a lot growing up. So one time for Doug Moe, rest in peace. Thanks for being part of my sporting life. That'll do it for 580 Sports Talk today. We're back tomorrow from 3 until 6. I am Dan Lucero. Good night.